Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Greetings and peace to you from Louisiana Black Advocates for Life. Wherever you may live in our country right now, and especially here in Louisiana, we know that we are all walking through quite unusual circumstances at this time. These are times that can certainly cause anxiety and stress, but as pro-life people, we choose life and we choose hope in any set of circumstances. And that hope is rooted in the promises of God. We see in the book of Jeremiah, chapter 1, verse 5, the Lord says, "Before you were knit together in your mother's womb, I knew you, and I consecrated you, and I appointed you a prophet to the nations." And we know a prophet is not necessarily someone who's famous. We are all called, wherever we might be right now, to be messengers of hope. And I'm here today to speak to you about a group of people in our state who need you to be a messenger of hope, to help them embrace the hope that will help us protect our future. Last year, approximately 6,000 Black women decided that they had no better option than to end the lives of their unborn babies in abortion clinics around our state. That's 6,000 boys and girls, potential educators, healthcare professionals, artists, law enforcement officials, people who would be sitting in our pews and in our neighborhoods today. The death toll from abortion in the Black community each year is more than the combined total of deaths from HIV, cancer, and heart disease. Abortion is, in fact, the number one killer of Black people in the state of Louisiana. 1 in every 5 Black babies that is conceived actually dies in an abortion clinic every year. Well, many of you may be wondering, if this is such a horrible problem, well, why haven't I heard more about it? Well, the fact is that abortion in our state, and particularly in our Black community, is shrouded in secrecy. Women who have had experience with abortion, and men also, because men are affected by abortion, may fear that if they come forward, they'll be a subject of gossip, that people may shun them, that they'll be ridiculed, and they'll have no way to deal with the guilt and shame. The fear of being judged is a really great hindrance to seeking the healing that's necessary to protect our future. Another reason for the large number of abortions in our community is that the Black community, unlike other communities, has been historically targeted by the abortion industry, beginning with Margaret Sanger, a member of the American Eugenics Society, and her colleagues, who started an organization which we now know as Planned Parenthood. Through an initiative they called the Negro Project, Margaret Sanger and colleagues targeted and attempted to recruit our Black physicians and pastors to have them recommend to us in the Black community that we seek abortion and birth control as ways of making our lives easier. They believed, in fact, that Black people and people with disabilities were the sort of people who were a drain on society's resources, and that we needed to have our population controlled. The modern day ramification of this is that 79% of all abortion facilities are located in or near a minority neighborhood. But that's not just research and statistics to me. I used to be one of the women who kept silent about an abortion. When I discovered at the age of 19 that I was, as they say, with child, I called the man with whom I had been in a relationship, and I use that term loosely, looking for support. I really don't know what I thought he was going to say to me, but what he did say is, "I know someone who works at an abortion clinic, and she can get you a discount on an abortion." A discount, imagine that. So, I really hadn't thought much about what was in my womb, but what I did know is that I didn't want anyone to find out that I was pregnant, because it was going to be embarrassing. So I had my abortion, and I really never thought much about it. I believed that I had solved a problem, and I went on with my life. And I occasionally would hear people talk about abortion, or I might hear something in church, but I thought to myself, the only way anybody's ever going to know that I had an abortion is if I tell them, and I'm never going to tell anybody that I had an abortion. So I'm quite amused now that God has me going around the state of Louisiana talking to people about something I said I'd never discuss. So my view of things changed. I thought abortion was something that wasn't good, but I could see how a woman might choose it. And I went along with this view for quite some years until later in life, after three doctors had told me I'd never have a child, I discovered that I was, as they say in the Bible, with child. And I was thrilled. I was thrilled that I was going to be part of the mommy club. Um, so the pregnancy was going along really, really well until about 5.5 months of pregnancy when the doctor said, Kathy, there's a 50% chance that the child you're carrying has Down syndrome. Now, I know a lot about Down syndrome now, but at that time I didn't know anything about it, and I was quite worried and frightened about this. And I later found out that over 70% of women in our country who have a prenatal diagnosis of Down syndrome abort those babies without having information about the joy and the gifts that those children bring to the world. Well, I decided that whatever condition my unborn baby had, I was going to give it life because I believed at that point that if God had put life in my womb with everything that mitigated against it, that He had a purpose for that life. So my son Joshua was born with Down syndrome. He was born 6 weeks early at 4 pounds 7 ounces, and he was the most beautiful baby I had ever seen. I forgot all about being discouraged or upset about the Down syndrome. And after Joshua's birth, could see that he was a beautiful baby, just like other babies. I could see that he wanted to walk, he wanted to talk, he had gifts, he had talents, he had a great many things going for him. And by the way, I'm a better person for having a child with Down syndrome. I'm more loving, I'm more patient, I am far less self centered. I know that there's no such thing as normal because normal is something's only normal as you compare it to something else. And I know that everybody needs a little help, even those of us who don't have a so called disability or special ability. And it is my privilege as Joshua's mother to make sure that he gets the supports and the services he needs in order to communicate his and express his gifts and his talents, and to be included in the life of the family, the neighborhood, the school, church, and the community. But as I was watching my son and I saw how many gifts and talents he had and how much he was just like other children, I began to think, I wonder why people think children with Down syndrome are such a problem and they really have no value and that they should be aborted. And it was at that moment that I realized that I had made a decision many years ago when I had that abortion that a child didn't have enough value to live. And it was my own child. So now I'm pro life because I know at some point every woman or man who's been involved with abortion, because abortion involves men also, every one of us at some point is going to realize that what happened in the abortion is the ending of a human life. And at that time when you realize a human life was ended and you ended it and you can't go back and get that life, you have two choices. You can either surrender to guilt and shame and secrecy and do dysfunctional kinds of things to cope with it, or you can reach out and seek healing and begin to forgive yourself and seek God's forgiveness, receive God's forgiveness. I chose to receive healing through a 3-day retreat known as Rachel's Vineyard Retreat. Rachel's Vineyard is a retreat that begins on Friday afternoons and it concludes on Sunday evening. It's completely confidential. It's available to women, to men, to people who've had an abortion, to people who are related to the person who had an abortion, to someone who's performed an abortion. Anybody who needs healing with respect to abortion is welcome at Rachel's Vineyard. And it's completely confidential. Each person who participates signs a confidentiality agreement stating that you will not reveal anything that happened during the weekend. But the greatest thing that happened to me during that weekend, and I really didn't think I needed it because my abortion had been many, many years prior to that. The greatest thing that happened is that I discovered that my child, that I thought was totally destroyed in the abortion, was not. That although her physical body may have been destroyed, her soul remains intact, and she is a whole human being in the arms of Jesus. She's in heaven, and I will see her one day. That was a very, very great relief for me. The other thing that we did in the Rachel's Vineyard retreat was to have a memorial service, because ordinarily, if someone in your family goes to heaven, there's a celebration of their life. There's a recognition of the kinds of things they contributed to the world. But when there's an abortion, there's a death, but there's no recognition of the life that was lost. So there's no one sending you flowers. There's no one holding your hand through it. And so we had a memorial service as part of the Rachel's Vineyard retreat conclusion on our concluding day. And we had a chance to recognize the lives of the children that we had aborted, to tell them we were sorry, to read letters to our children. We had a chance to give them names, and it really provided a great sense of closure. So I recommend that to any woman, whether or man, whether or not you think you need it. It's a great, great source of healing. And my desire to reach other men and women who I know have had the same experience led me to become involved with pro-life advocacy in the Black community through Louisiana Black Advocates for Life. And we at Louisiana Black Advocates for Life are an initiative that seeks to meaningfully engage and empower individuals in the Black community to create a stronger culture of life, to become more greatly involved in saving our lives in the womb and outside of the womb. 6,000 Black women believed last year that ending the lives of their unborn babies was the only option they had. We at Black Advocates for Life believe that women and men who have sufficient information, connection to resources, and support networks will be strong enough to choose life for their unborn babies. We also believe that young people who are provided with information and about life challenges in the Black community can be empowered to make good, life-affirming choices that will promote the growth of a vibrant culture of life. I humbly ask that you look within your heart and discover the message of hope that you can share with those who are in your life. An encouraging word, a listening ear, and act of kindness or charity. These are the way we help the mothers and babies of the community that need us. I ask that we join hands with others in solidarity across denominational lines, across political lines, and across racial lines to promote life, proclaim a message of hope, and to promote the cause of justice for the born and the unborn. Thank you so much for your time. God bless you, and please stay safe.